And ladies and gentlemen, that does bring our final panel to an end, and we go straight away now into a wrap-up dialogue with a leading German policymaker who is helping shape this country's own hydrogen strategy, which was announced last June with great fanfare, and which is aiming to make Germany a world leader in hydrogen technology. So it's my pleasure to welcome the State Secretary in Germany's Federal Ministry for Economic Affairs and Energy, Andreas Feicht. Please, you have the stage.
Dear Melinda, thank you very much. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, the German government adopted the National Hydrogen Strategy 9 months ago. Since then, important measures have been implemented both nationally and internationally. Now we are looking forward to seeing investment projects as soon as possible. From the investor's point of view, these investment decisions require that the overall framework of funding, regulation and infrastructure planning is perfectly coordinated. This is something at the heart of our hydrogen strategy. We will mostly likely not see isolated projects, for example, investments in hydrogen production in the market ramp-up phase. This is why we need integrated projects in which production, usage and infrastructure are implemented together. For this to work, a close cooperation between all stakeholders is crucial. We are committed to do this not only nationally, but also bilaterally and multilaterally. Let me give you a short recap of the latest developments here in Germany. We have recently adopted the national implementation of the EU Renewable Energy Directive II in the transport sector. The regulation now lays down ambitious targets for the use of renewable energies in transport. We have geared the market incentives towards a speedy ramp-up of hydrogen economy, especially for the use of green hydrogen in refineries and fuel cell vehicles. In addition, incentives are in place for synthetic fuels and kerosene. The relevant regulatory framework also includes the burden of levies and on electricity, which affect the economics of electrolyzers. By introducing options to accept electrolyzers from the Renewable Energy Act's levy, the business case for hydrogen production has significantly improved. Germany is pushing for full exemption for green hydrogen. Green hydrogen being for us means conditions under which use of grid electricity can be considered 100% green. We have submitted draft legislation to Parliament to amend the Energy Industry Act, which will create a robust legal framework for rapid and legally secure development of the necessary hydrogen infrastructure for investment projects of the first few years. The amendments include, among other things, procedural rules for the conversion of existing natural gas pipelines, determination of network charges, third-party access, as well as basic principles of planning and licensing law. When it comes to grants to hydrogen projects, an integrated approach is important. Nothing is achieved if green hydrogen produced in large electrolyzers cannot be transported and purchased. Funding mechanism, therefore, must address production costs as well as costs on the demand side. We believe operating grants or similar measures are probably needed. Important project of common European interest, so-called IPCEIs, on hydrogen is another key instrument for promoting entire hydrogen value chain. It is a special funding framework to support European market ramp-up. Germany takes on a coordinating role in this issue. Our recently concluded expression of interest procedure met with very great interest. Over 200 project proposals achieved to us. I would like to take the opportunity to address the EU Commission. In the process of developing a new market, we have to face global competition. Therefore, a special mechanism, for example in state aid proceedings, are needed to go beyond the current status in terms of funding level and intensity. Our domestic capacity to produce green hydrogen in Germany is limited, of course. We are aiming at important large amounts of green hydrogen in the future. We are setting up partnerships with countries that have high potential to produce green hydrogen at very low cost. We plan to fund demonstration projects abroad that showcase that hydrogen technology made in Germany. We will soon publish funding tools for international projects. We have already provided funding to some very early projects in Chile and Saudi Arabia. Looking into the future, we are in the process of implementing the concept of so-called H2 Global that will support the international market ramp-up of green hydrogen. It is an auction-based mechanism with long-term hydrogen purchase agreements that enables the import of green hydrogen to Germany and incentivizes significant additional private investment. Our long-term goal is to ramp up global hydrogen supply in order to increase security of supply for Germany. In that case, I'm very happy to have you here and to discuss with you all these very important topics around hydrogen. Thank you very much for listening.
And thank you very much, State Secretary Feicht. And I'll just field a couple of questions to you, if I may. And first of all, and we were just talking about it in our last panel, how we accelerate progress on green hydrogen, because of course the IEA has said there are many sectors where there's a potential for use, but very, very little penetration so far. So what would you say to that? How do we really get momentum going?
Yes. Well, first of all, of course, everybody needs a comprehensive hydrogen strategy in all those countries, of course, because that brings trust and confidence to the industry, from the demand side, also for the supply side. This is the first place. So we did it in June last year, but also the European Union did it, and a lot of other countries worldwide also. Second, we need certainty for the industry, so a clear legal framework when it comes to a question like what is on the OPEC side. For example, in Germany, we've got high electricity prices, so bring down the levies on the electricity in order to produce green hydrogen in electrolyzers is one example. Also what I mentioned, the RED II, so bring hydrogen into refineries for synthetic fuels, for example. And bringing in a framework, also an enabling framework for infrastructure. So infrastructure is very crucial. People want to see that they can use hydrogen in a certain way. Safety, but also security of supply. And third, we need a clear ramp up, a scale up, because the goal must be that that hydrogen will become a commodity, like it is in natural gas in these days. So scaling up by tailor-made funding systems, for example, is the third pillar, I would say.
Meaning subsidies. This was just also a point made by our panel that basically subsidies are crucial in the early phases. How do you design those? And would you look back to the introduction of solar as a model for that?
Yes. When you look 10 years ago, solar was very, very expensive, or 20 years ago, and now solar is too cheap to measure, some people say. So this is what we have to achieve also in the hydrogen sector. What are the challenges when to design those subsidies? The challenge is that on the hydrogen sector, it's a pull effect. So we need also to look at all the demand sectors. And it's a difference whether you look at the steel industry, for example, or the chemical industries, or mobility, or the heating sector. So all of these sectors needs tailor-made funding systems, sometimes on the regulatory side, sometimes on the funding side when it comes to CAPEX. But as it was mentioned in the panelists, from the panelists just before, also when it comes to CFDs on the OPEC side. So it's not one fits it all. It's not a silver bullet. We have to look at all those sectors and make it really tailor-made.
Talk to us a little bit about standards, because this is something that we discussed at length on the panel. And as we all know, green hydrogen is only green if it is made with certifiably green power. So who needs to drive standards forward, and how can we be assured that we have the right standards in place, both in terms of origin, but also safety, for example?
This is, of course, this is a issue of policymakers. They have to define those standards, and it's easy when the windmill is just standing just beside the electrolyzers, and then it's easy. But the complicated case is when electricity comes from the all-over grid. So what we are doing in Germany right now is to define those standards. We want to propose it by the midst of this year in summer, so that we can really define precisely what is green electricity is about, and then what does it mean for the hydrogen production. But this is a classical, from my point of view, a classical challenge and also job for the European Commission, for the European Union. So in mature markets, it's important that people can rely on those standards. By the end of the day, we want that that hydrogen is a commodity and that everybody can buy it, and doesn't have to think about what is the hydrogen about, which is coming into fabrication, for example. So those standards are really important.
And we had an audience question we didn't get to pose, so I'm going to pose it to you. In terms of what industrial sectors you see really driving this and having great potential for use of hydrogen, where do you think we're going to see it taken up most rapidly and most extensively? And are there any surprises there?
Don't know, but there are some surprises. What I learn now is that a lot of sectors want to enjoy hydrogen. So in the first place, in the first decade, as when hydrogen is still rare and quite expensive, we need to bring it to the hard-to-abate sectors. Also where the gap to the economics is not too high. That means that steel, for example, is very attractive, also chemical industries. But in the mobility sector, of course, long-haul vehicles, the heavy vehicles, also the airplanes or aircrafts are from my point of view, in the first place. In Germany, we have got a quite intensive debate on the question on the heating sector. So the heating sector, the gas sector, wants also to get this hydrogen blended in the grid, in the gas grids, and I'm open to that. It's quite reasonable. But we need to wait until this hydrogen is there in big amount and in lower cost.
And lastly, and this is something that you mentioned in your remarks at the outset, the IPCEIs, these important projects of common European interest. I had the privilege of participating in a very big conference on the battery IPCEI that the ministry has been very actively supporting. Talk to us a little bit about cooperation in the hydrogen economy going forward, and how you see the role of collaboration in international R&D.
Oh, we have got two types of cooperation, I may say. In the first place, those hydrogen projects will be integrated projects. So where the electrolyzers is on site, also the transport capacity is on site, and the usage of this hydrogen is on site. And these are different industries who are cooperating, businesses who are cooperating with each other. And this is what the IPCEIs are about. So we've got over 200 proposals from industries, quite overwhelming. And these are refineries, steel industry, but also energy companies. They are working together and cooperating. The second type is, of course, countries with each other, bilaterally, multilaterally. Because hydrogen is driven globally. It's not only locally, regionally. You see it on the panel. It's globally driven, and it's a question of import and export. We as Germany will be always an energy importer. So what we want to do is to export technology and import energy. So this is about those cooperations. In the first place, of course, in Europe, but in the second place also internationally. And therefore, working together, learning from each other is quite crucial.
We wouldn't be talking about all of this if Germany hadn't made an astonishing journey on renewables, a journey that most people would have thought would never have been possible for a country in cold, cloudy northern Europe. But in fact, Germany has had astonishing success there, and that is directly related, as we have heard also on our panel, to the potential for hydrogen economy. Where do you think Germany is going to be on hydrogen, say, in that crucial year 2030? I know you have big ambitions. Speak them out.
Well, we want to have about 5 gigawatts on installed capacity on electrolyzers in Germany in 2030, another 5 gigawatts until 2035. So this should be quite a big amount of installed capacity, but it won't be enough. So we will import, of course, we will import hydrogen. And so from my point of view, more important than the installed capacity by our own is the demand side. So I want to see Germany in a leading position in order to invent and also install and innovate on usage of hydrogen in all these different sectors, which would enable our industry also to export this technology to other sectors and regions worldwide.
Thank you very much, State Secretary Andreas Feicht, for this very upbeat look at where the hydrogen economy is going in future.